All right, we're live. Awesome. Hey, Phil Duke. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and the pleasure of talking and interviewing Mr. Phil Duke, who's newly joined EXP. But before we get into that, let's talk about him back in the day. And I got to put my glasses on and read this. I'm going to read it. 2020 selection to the Tuscaloosa News Top 40 Under 40. 2018 Best Real Estate Agent according to the Tuscaloosa News. Former broker owner of First Class Real Estate. Former area representative, franchise developer, First Class Real Estate. And a fun fact, besides being an officer in the Alabama Army National Guard, thank you for that, and a deacon at the World Community Church, he's also a member of the Alabama Powerlifting Hall of Fame. I've never had a Powerlifting Hall of Fame person on this channel, so thanks for joining, buddy. Tell us all about you.
Yeah, man. I don't know where you want to start, but basically my story in real estate basically was, I kind of got into it accidentally. We've got a little community college here. We actually have the University of Alabama is here where I live in Tuscaloosa. A lot of people know about the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, football and all that kind of stuff. But we've got two other colleges here, Stillman College and Shelton State Community College. And so I ended up at Shelton State Community College, stayed local. And one of the electives I took, my plan was to do 2 years at community college, then go to the University of Alabama. And I knew I wanted to do something in business, but I didn't really know what. So I took a business elective in real estate. And at that time, if you completed that course, you could take the state exam. And so I did that. I had no idea that was, a possibility or what that looked like. But I said, you know what? I'm kind of tired of being a broke college student and, making basically minimum wage, maybe a little bit higher than minimum wage when I did work, working 30 hours a week while going to school. So I said, let me just try this real estate stuff. And I got in it. And like most people do, I flunked out. I had no sales experience. I learned a little bit of sales skills, but to be honest with you, I wasn't very committed to it at that point. It was just I thought it was going to be easy. So maybe I kind of, wasn't as entrenched as I needed to be, but I got out in 2008, joined the military. I thought I'm never going to be in real estate again. I came back and finished my degree at the University of Alabama. I actually was in pest control sales. So I used to be the one doing the termite inspections and crawling under the houses and all that kind of stuff. And I really, I had a lot of freedom in that job. I basically set my own schedule and didn't really have anybody like looking over my shoulder. I had my own, company vehicle and, I took it home every day. So I just got up every day and went and did my appointments and got it done for the day and was done. And I kind of got the itch to be back self-employed again. I was somewhat close to it working at that company. And that was a great job. And I really learned my sales skills in that job. I kind of, was out there all by myself every day, trying to figure out what worked for me, what didn't work for me. And I was able to roll that into, a second round of being in real estate. So 2015, got in the business again, part-time, jumped in it full-time the next year. And by year two, I think I closed 59 transactions in my second year of being full-time. 2018 was number one in my town, started my own brokerage and turned that eventually into 10 locations across 6 states before moving over to EXP recently and moving those agents and those locations into EXP as well. So it's kind of a weird story to go from being, a flunk out in the business to coming back 8 years later. And, but, I had a coach the second time I got in. I had a mentor. I actually listened to that person. I had a wife and I had a newborn baby and a mortgage payment at that time too. So I guess maybe I was more committed. Maybe I knew a little bit more like what the challenge was going to be going into it. I was a little bit older. So I think all those things kind of helped. But man, I absolutely love this business. Excited about this next chapter of life now moving over to EXP and excited to be working with people like Mike and so many others that I get to talk to on a daily basis and collaborate and mastermind with now.
Well, that's a great story. And one thing that hit real hard, your second year, you did 59 transactions your second year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's incredible, man. And that's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Yeah, and the market wasn't like it was the last couple of years. I mean, we'd put listings out, and we were hoping we'd get an offer in 3 to 6 months of having them on the market. Then, so it was a
Wow.
little bit different. Had to really learn how to service listings and take a lot of listings and give those people feedback throughout the week and get them to reduce the prices when we needed to. So I mean, it was a great learning experience to kind of go through that. And but I knew like eventually like I wanted to have a job, and also being in the military part time. What I found was, at that time my business was like all dependent on me. I
Mm.
wake up early, go to the gym, first one in the office, open up the door at 7:30, 7:45, closing my door to my office, prospecting, lead generating, working in my CRM, setting listing appointments. I mean, my goal back then was just one new listing in the MLS every single week.
Mm.
And sometimes it took me all week to get there. Sometimes I got there by Tuesday or Wednesday, and some weeks I had zero, some weeks I got two or three, but like it really felt like, hey, like this is like I'm making more money than I've ever made before. But when I would like take time off for military stuff or vacation, I found out real quick that even though I was classified as an entrepreneur, and even though I was, self-employed, I really didn't own a business. I
Wow.
owned a job, and that
Yeah.
job paid me really well as long as I continued to show up to that job and keep doing the phone calls and going on the appointments and getting the document signed and getting the signs put up. But if I took my foot off the brake, off the gas for too long, I really felt a slowdown in my business, and that's what ultimately prompted me to go, the broker owner route, and then later the area developer route, area representative route with franchise development, and really being more of a coach
Yeah.
than a producer at that point. And so, man, I'm glad it's all happened. I've learned so much. I've made so many mistakes along the way. But one thing I've loved about this industry is like there's so many ways you can win. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing or how things are going right now, you can totally change direction. There's so many ways you can win. So,
Well, I've been following you for a while now. We actually talked, I think it was last year, earlier in the year. I was seeing you guys first class real estate everywhere, and I called you and was asking you about it. And all the trainings you guys are doing, and you're right. Everything that we've done up to now got us to where we are, right? And we had to make mistakes, and realtors, everybody gets into real estate because they want to be an entrepreneur. They want to run their own business. They want to have freedom and the autonomy to work when they want to work. But like you just said, you worked your tail off to get all that business. It's kind of like getting in shape. It takes a long time to get in shape, but you can get off, stop working out, start eating terrible. A month later, you're done. And the same thing with real estate. You stop, you take your foot off the gas, go out of town for a couple of weeks, and you're almost starting over. And it's a never ending grind. And you got to have leverage, systems, and tools. And that's what a lot of folks don't have. But one of the things I know about you for sure, and I want to talk about your brokerage for a minute. You started out as a top producer. You figured out early that you had to get on the phones and connect with people face to face, get in front of them, start talking to them, find out what their needs are, and you started getting that business. And ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter what town you live in and what city. If you do that consistently, you're going to get some business. And then you got big, so to speak. You got almost 59 transactions your second year, which is incredible. And now you're in the weeds. You got all kinds of clients going on. And then, it's like you start your own brokerage. Okay. And then that's the next step. You start your own brokerage, and then you go 10 brokerages. So you can't open 10 brokerages with, number one, having a system and a plan, and having some training and helping people. And one of the things on your LinkedIn profile that I love, it says you help entrepreneurs who are stuck get unstuck. And so tell us a little bit about that journey of going from broker owner to 10 brokerages. And, what does it take to get to train these agents and get that kind of thing off the ground?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, like I'm one of those kind of people that I tend to jump into things without totally having it figured out. So my first like 18 months of having my brokerage, I had no clue what I was doing. Right. I was a producer. I was a top producer, and but I had no clue what it took to really like make a brokerage profitable. I was really a producer who just happened to have a broker license, and I wasn't really running it the way that I did later, which, exponentially grew when I kind of changed my mindset on it. I just thought, you know, hey, I was paying a cap where I was, and I really didn't have any control over the cap. And I was having to pay for my own coaching and my own marketing and all that stuff on top of that. And so I thought, you know what, like I'll just get a little office somewhere. I'll get just a couple agents and nothing big. And if nothing else, like maybe I'll make enough money off of their transactions that I'll at least just like break even, and then I won't be paying a cap to anybody. I'll be able to keep that money.
Mhm.
And boy, was I wrong. So you know, you don't know what you don't know.
All right.
But really, like I was at a point about 18 months in, I was at a point where I was like, do I just like abandon this totally and just go back to production? Because I was making more money as a producer, and I had less jobs, right? Like what, like at that point, I was the recruiter, I was the onboarder, I was the one uh, quality control on the files, I was the one, you know, writing the check out after closing day, I was the one buying the toilet paper and
Yeah.
copy paper for the printer and toner, and you know, cleaning the office a lot of, you know, just and I really, you know, almost went that way, but I really took some time and I got clarity about what I really wanted.
Mhm.
And what I really wanted is, and what I've been chasing all these years, and I think what a lot of people are chasing, maybe they don't realize it, I was chasing freedom the whole time.
Yeah.
And what I realized that I had done wrong was, instead of getting myself closer to freedom, I actually signed myself up for a whole bunch more jobs.
Mhm.
And I went from being basically a producer who just came in and, you know, made phone calls and went on appointments and just did my deals, to still doing that. That was my primary source of income still, but now having all these other job titles. And then, you know, I met a guy that just totally changed my outlook on everything. And really, like, this sounds dumb. I almost feel bad like even admitting that this is where I was at that point. He broke it down to me. He's like, "You're doing fine." Like I had like 10 or 12 agents, just people that knew me, agents that had done deals with me.
Mhm.
A handful of them were clients. They liked the way I did business with them. And hey, I've always wanted to do real estate. Hey, Phil just opened up his own shop. I'll go work for it. So like I had 10 or 12 people without even really trying. And he told me, he said, "You're doing great, but you can only get so much out of 10 or 12 people.
Yeah.
You don't need to change anything you're doing as far as the way you're training people, the way that you're onboarding them, the leads that you're giving them, the things you're teaching them to do, the software program, the CRM that you're using. You just need a whole lot more people.
Yeah.
And if you took the number of people you have and the number of transactions they're currently doing, and you tripled that, or you quadrupled that, or you 10x that, you know, what would that look like for you?" And I was like, oh my goodness, like how dumb have I been? Like I've been over here trying to get everybody to be like me, everybody to get to 59.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to do that. Some
Uh-uh.
people aren't capable of doing that. Some people are stronger as admins than they are on the sales side. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. But once I got that vision of more people equals more closings equals more money, well, then I was like, well, crap, what am I doing? Why, you know, recruiting is just lead generation, right? I mean,
That's
I
it.
used to call for sell by owners to set appointments. And when I went on those appointments, I had to know what to say to get them to sign a listing agreement. And I just thought, well, you know what? I can do the same thing with agents. I'll call agents to set appointments. I'll learn what to say on those appointments, and I'll get them to sign up. And then over like the course of the next 5 years, I turned into over 300 agents recruited. And
Wow.
then as the way that we grew to 10 locations was by going after agents. Um, if you bring on 300 agents, you're bound to find somebody who's going to be a leader.
Yeah.
And I had a model at that time that if they became a top producer and then they became a team leader and then they wanted to go open up their own office, I had a path for that. So that's how the first 3 or 4, you know, kind of got started. And then after that, once we kind of saw that we had something that worked, like those people didn't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to the checklist they use and how they onboard people. They were using my onboarding system. They would hire their agents and they would sign their agents up for my little online course that I created. So they
Mhm.
didn't have to create anything. And so then I was like, if I can do 3 or 4 of these, why can't I do 10 of these?
Yeah.
And then it just kept going and going and going from there. And ultimately, you know, one of the reasons why we jumped to EXP was because when you start jumping into new markets and new areas, you need help.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately like, and it cost extra to join new MLSs to get licensed in new states. And, you know, even for us, we were part of like, my main office was part of 3 MLSs in Alabama, the 3 biggest ones. But we started having like an agent here that wanted to join us, but we didn't have anybody in that area. So did it really make sense for us to drop $2,000 to join an MLS to bring on an agent that might produce that we might just break even on?
Yeah.
And so like just little stuff like that kind of starts adding up when you keep trying to grow it and grow it and grow it. And so that was ultimately like one of the biggest reasons why we moved to EXP, was because they were already where we wanted to be. And the onboarding experience is virtually the same. We've got people handling that, getting their credit card info, swiping it every month. If the credit card doesn't go through, it's not me or my team having to
That's right. You're
follow
not
up
the
on
one
those
messing with it.
people. I'm not having to review paperwork anymore. I don't even have a QuickBooks account anymore. So, you know, you've got marketing and sales, and then you've got admin. Every business out there, pest control, real estate, insurance, you know, you got to do marketing to generate leads. Somebody's got to turn those leads into customers on sales, and then somebody's got to turn those customers into money on the logistics or the admin side. And so basically what we were able to do by jumping in with EXP was to totally get out of the admin side of the real estate business for the most part. I mean, there's little things we have to do. You know, but I'll give you a good example. I had one of my offices that moved over recently. They had like 10 people, 10 agents in Louisiana. It was the only first class real estate office in Louisiana. You know, when you've only got 10 people, you've probably got a part-time admin who's kind of doing all the admin stuff, making sure agents are getting paid. But what happens when that admin's on vacation for the week, or that admin's out sick? Guess who's the admin now?
Phil Duke.
The person that owns that business, right?
That's right.
And that was a problem. Like even when we were closing 100+ deals a month, I only had 2 admins full time ever. We were very, you know, we used a lot of technology, we used a lot of automation, so we never had a huge staff. And on one hand, that's great because it keeps your expenses low. But on the other hand, if you've only got 1 or 2 people that's helping you run the ship, and that 1 or 2 people is out, well, now you're the admin on top of everything else that you have going on for the week. So, so as we started opening up offices, I started noticing that as well. We were taking producers who had done well in production, and now they kind of get bogged down with the operations or the admin side of things. And that brings their production down. They get stuck doing things that are not really in their wheelhouse, that are not not what makes them brilliant. And next thing you know, some of them are like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this or not.
Well, to interject for a second before we get past it, you mentioned all the hats. You wore all the hats, and then you got bigger, and then you had other people wearing hats. And if somebody in the admin goes away, then that person, whoever it is, you or the owner of that brokerage or that franchise, is coming into doing it. And then there's the thing we haven't really talked about, all the compliance, the overhead, number one, but the compliance. Being a broker owner of any real estate business, you are taking care of all the problems. You are taking care of all the minutes, all the things, and it's a lot of liability. And when you guys moved over to EXP, all that was gone. EXP brokers the deal. You just still doing the same thing that you loved, which is helping agents get from here to here and showing them a path forward on how they're going to do more production. And so, I mean, it's a natural move, but a lot of people don't see it that way. They want to do their own thing, but they don't realize that somebody else has already got it figured out. EXP, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote my book Unstuck, you know, that's on Amazon, and the whole goal of that was to eventually get yourself to where you're not doing any of the jobs anymore. You're not the one recruiting, you're not the one onboarding them, you're not the one reviewing paperwork, you're not the one cleaning the office. Like, how do you build that kind of business? Well, with EXP, you get a lot of that instantly, right? Somebody else is the broker, somebody else is reviewing the paperwork, somebody else is getting them through the onboarding process. Somebody else is paying them out the commission. I'm going to be on vacation next week. When I was running a brokerage before, there was a good chance that if an agent had a closing on Thursday, I was going to have to get up Friday morning on vacation and review that file and go into QuickBooks and pay that person a direct deposit.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I owed it to them as a leader. Well, now somebody else does that for me.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people get into this business because they want freedom. But if you're not careful, what can happen is you end up just putting on a bunch of different hats and you're being pulled a bunch of different ways all the time. And a lot of people get to a point where they're burnt out. They don't want to do it anymore. And they take a step back and they say, how did I even get in this position? I got in this position to have more freedom, not to have to be reviewing paperwork while I'm sitting at the ball field watching my kids play. And I mean, listen, I don't think in today's society, I don't think you can ever fully get away from taking a phone call here or there, or checking some emails or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody I know, even in other industries outside the real estate business, that's just the way things work now. Everybody's got their cell phones on them. But if your goal is to have a business that runs and happens without you having to be the one turning the knobs and pressing the buttons, EXP gives you a lot of that right out of the get-go, so you can focus more on the sales and the marketing side and let them handle the logistics and the admin. So it's been a great, change of pace for us. It's been kind of weird, to be honest with you, to not be involved with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was recently overseas for a couple weeks for military duty, and the whole time I was over there, we had closings happening. We had agents getting paid. We had agents onboarding. I'm getting emails that so-and-so has joined, and listed me as a sponsor, or so-and-so showing up in my dashboard in my second level or third level already.
Yeah.
And, while I'm over there, I'm just checking my email just to know what's in the loop, but nothing is dependent on Phil to happen with that whole thing. So yeah, it's a great change of pace, and the liability thing too. The lawsuits that came out last year were really eye-opening. I mean, there were companies that spent 10, 20, 30, 40 years building themselves up as a brokerage, and now some of them were big enough they had to pay a tremendous amount in fees.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what? It might be a good time to get out of being the broker myself. So,
that's right. Yeah. Let somebody else do it.
Yeah.
What allows you to also focus on, it's like when you're a solo guy, right? Or solo agent, what's the number one thing you're focused on? Lead generation, setting appointments, you're 20%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start doing all that, and that's what you love to do. Nobody gets in real estate going, I want to manage 35 people and run and be an administrator for a big office. Nobody says that. And then you get big, and then you start doing all these things, and we're always lose sight of what's the goal? What are we trying to do here? And we're trying to build a life that we can one day walk away from, right? And realtors, there's not many, I don't know how many realtor retirement parties you've been to. I've never been to one. I think they call them a funeral. Like, it's just, you don't get to go to one, right?
Yeah.
And like, one of the reasons that I came to EXP was, I've been a top producer for a long time. And unless you're out buying, a whole bunch of rental properties, or a whole bunch of investment properties, or making really, savvy moves in the markets, which most people don't, you're just when you make your last commission check, you're over. It's done. And EXP has this three-legged stool. It's all built on production. But then you have the icon. So if you hit it, and then there's the hardware to prove it. Number 5's on the way. So
yeah,
you hit icon, you get all your cap back in stock. And that's just something that, and I won't talk about that for a second. A lot of agents don't realize that they work for these brokers, and they have a cap, and they pay a cap, and all they get for that cap is like a plaque going, thanks a lot. EXP gives you all of your cap back when you hit a certain number of houses. And if you're a producer like me and you, we icon every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next part, you just mentioned that while you're on vacation, or while you're working for your military duty, that you're getting emails that say people are joining underneath you. They like what you're doing. They want to lock arms with you, and they're coming in and joining under you. And now you're getting revenue share from those people when they're being productive. And so you get your production, the stock awards and icon, and then you get the revenue share. And so, like, who wouldn't want to be in an environment like this where you have all those things? Think about rental houses. A $400,000 rental house, you got to put $80,000 down, probably 15 in it to get it right. And then you got to rent it. And then, 10 years, you're putting on HVACs and roofs and water heaters and all the things. Or you could just show 15 or 20 agents how your life has changed. Mm-hmm. And if they get on board, it's going to be the same thing, revenue share. So tell me a little bit about your journey so far with recruiting. You said you recruited 300 something people at First Class. How are you attracting? We like to call it attracting. And by the way, folks, everybody recruits, every business, doesn't matter about real estate. But Phil, tell everybody how, in the short time you've been here, I think maybe just a handful of months, right? When did you join?
Yeah, just a couple months ago. I think actually May 1st was the official date. I mean, the application process and all that, but I had to be the last one to move over because of the way my company was set up. So, I mean, we started moving people over before that. So yeah, I'm less than 2 months into it at this point. Yeah.
Well, and you've already got people in your second and third line. And so, people are obviously attracted to what you're doing here. And what kind of benefit do you see, tell everybody in the next, 2-3 years of this kind of, I want to say behavior, but this kind of opportunity, where do you see this going in 2 or 3, 4, 5 years with the revenue share and the recruiting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just overall, the landscape of real estate, I think is going to make it very conducive to a lot of people wanting to exit from owning a brokerage.
Yeah.
We were seeing that on the franchising side. Good conversation with people, and it's, what, I don't know if this is the right market for me to spend money and open up a brokerage. So there's some fear involved there.
Yeah.
You're also, with interest rates being higher, just over the last couple of years, we've seen people who had big brokerages and big teams, all of a sudden they don't have that many agents anymore, right?
Yeah.
So they had the big office, and they had all the expenses that came with it and all the staff that it took to run a 30, 40, 50, 100 person office. Well, now they've only got 20 people. And, the numbers would say not all 20 of those are even going to be producers. So I think it's going to make even more sense in the future for people to minimize their expenses. You mentioned that, the opportunity, whether you hit icon or not, I could show anybody out there a very simple strategy to at least get your monthly expenses paid for with EXP and probably cover your licensing and MLS fees every year.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have to go 100% into recruiting mode, but what's going to happen, and what's happened for us is as we've made the move over, we had 107 agents when we made the move. So when we made the move over, what happens when anybody changes brokerage, you start getting the nosy neighbors. Hey, why did y'all move over there? Why did you make that move? Or what we've seen is, hey, I was thinking about making that move too. What did y'all see that made you? Mm-hmm. And now next thing you know, we're in a recruiting conversation. So I talk with people frequently, and they're like, I don't want to be a recruiter. I don't care about the rev share stuff. And I get that. But if you're an agent that makes a move over to EXP, I guarantee you're going to at least have a handful of people that are close to you, that respect you, that say, hey, Phil, why did you do that? What did you see in that? And now if you can just get a couple people under you into your level one, especially if they're, pretty good producers, you're now, not only working for free, you're getting paid every month to be at EXP.
That's right.
So, people, and that was a big thing that was kind of hard for some of our folks. We had a 70-30 model where we provided leads and coaching and closing coordination. And then we had a $495 flat fee model. And some of our $495 flat fee model people were actually going to be jumping to an 80-20 now at EXP, but it's only 80-20 if you don't bring in people on your downline. Right. Or it's only 80-20 if you don't hit icon and get all your stock back, right? So it actually can be one of the least expensive places to be, depending on where you're at in your business. But all it takes is just a couple people being underneath you, under the rev share model. And next thing you know, all your monthly fees with EXP are taken care of. All your licensing and MLS fees are taken care of. And, wouldn't it be nice to know, whether you sell a house or not this month, that you're going to have $1,000 dropping into your account? And that's I could show anybody out there, whether you're a recruiter or not, anybody, you could probably spend 15 minutes a day for 30 days straight, and I could show people how you can generate leads. You don't even have to close them. Take your sponsor, people in my downline, they're getting recruiting leads. They're doing a 3-way call, me and them and the person that's interested in
Mhm.
EXP. I'm doing the whole thing, and we're putting that person under their downline, and now they're getting the credit for the revenue share.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be really, that simple. So it's been a tremendous opportunity. And there were people that were interested, in doing the franchise thing, but they didn't want all the responsibility. We've been able to get some of those people to come over with us as well, since we made the move. So it's really been eye opening. I mean, I kind of had this false idea that, oh man, like EXP, man, they already did their growing, and there ain't no way there's going to be a boom. There's still a lot of potential out
Yes,
there
sir.
in the marketplace. There's still a lot of people who are kicking the tires, trying to figure out where is the best brokerage for me. Is it time for me to make a move? And so those conversations are happening on a daily basis with me since I've made the move over.
Yeah, I'm still seeing, and just a little caveat, and can't give out numbers, of course, for compliance, but I haven't made a house payment or any car payments in 4 years out of my production income. It's all been revenue share, every bit of it, all of it. And I'm not a recruiter. And anybody that's ever met me knows I'm not a recruiter. I've not been a team leader, and I don't go out recruiting people. But people call me all the time, want to know what we're doing over here. And so what you said is true. People are curious, and they're going to kick some tires. And what I'm seeing now is a tremendous amount of people coming over that have big teams, like 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 plus million teams, 400 or 500 units. They're seeing that it makes a lot more sense to run their business on this platform than it does with the other brokerage, because of the three-legged stool: production, stock awards, and revenue share. And now with co-sponsoring, which is awesome, just came out just about a month ago. You can co-sponsor with anybody in the company now, and now both of you get rev share. And it's unbelievable. And Leo Perea, who is our president of the company, and that man is incredible. He was the number one solo producer at Keller Williams for a long time. I mean, this man sold, I don't know how many, 5,000-6,000 homes, and one of the biggest influencers at Keller Williams ever. And he's here leading the charge. And I mentioned Keller Williams only because it's got such a big brand name. But Leo saw the vision and is putting it together on a daily basis. And we are seeing there are all kinds of things on the back end that are all based on production to help agents sell more homes. And that's what really the driver of the company is. And it's a bonus for the stock and a bonus for the revenue share and recruiting. But I know in the short time you've been here, you've been lighting it up, man. And you have been, I know that you guys have big goals, building a big organization and helping a lot of agents. And I think what everybody needs to hear here, it's all based on how many people you can help. It's not about I'm recruiting somebody. I'm showing somebody a path. Like you said earlier in your other brokerage, you showed them a path, and you're doing it again. And you're showing people a path. And when you show people a path, they're going to come join you and lock arms with you. And I think what you're doing, Phil, is awesome, man. I think that you are, I know that you are going to absolutely crush it in this model. And the short time I've known you, man, I've just seen all these great things you've been doing. And I really want to thank you, for coming up here today and spending some time with us and talking about all this. And, in a parting shot, where do you see, this is kind of off the cuff question. We hadn't rehearsed this, folks. Where do you see your business here with EXP in the next 3 to 5 years? And that could be production, that could be your organization and your building. What does that look like in your eyes?
Yeah, well, to me, I don't think it has to be an either or. Right? I think that's a trap that a lot of people get into. I'm going to produce or I'm going to recruit, and can't do both. Restaurants. Think about restaurants. They have a menu with appetizers and entrees and desserts and drinks. Like, how crazy is it that most real estate agents have one way of making money? That's going and selling houses.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I flipped 16 houses in 2024, made money on 15 out of the 16. Like, now that I'm not having to run a brokerage anymore, I have more time to do those kind of things. It got to where, to me, that was more profitable than even running the brokerage and the 10 offices.
Yeah.
It just, so I mean, there's so many ways to win. I plan on continuing to grow those out. And, I was on a call earlier this week with Jay Kinder, and he was talking about building one oil well, getting that one oil well pumping money or pumping oil and making money for you, and then go get another one started, get that one pumping money, pumping and making money for you, then get another one. Like, it's limitless, but
Yeah,
you can't do those things when you're stuck running one of them.
that's
So
right.
if you have big goals and you want to do big things, you're going to have somebody helping you do it. Somebody's going to have to be taking stuff off your plate. No matter how good you are, you will reach a point where you can't do it all on your own. And so this is just one more move of me getting closer to continuing to do those things. I was kind of a little bit bogged down with running the brokerage and doing that kind of stuff. Just like death by 1,000 paper cuts. None of them were that bad, but they all kind of come at you at different times.
Yeah.
And it kind of can add up over time. And next thing you know, you've gotten distracted from other opportunities that are out there. So I plan to continue expanding my menu of things that I'm doing, my income streams. And, I think we're just scratching the surface here with this move over to EXP and what that's going to look like on the rev share side a couple years from now. But we're going to, people have asked me like, why'd you go over there? What are you going to do different? I'm really not doing anything different. I'm just doing it on a platform that allows me to leverage 2,500 employees who are there full time to help me and my agents with whatever we need.
Yeah.
And as I continue expanding, I don't have to go get licensed in a new state, join a new MLS, learn how to do business over there. You mentioned the co-sponsor. If I don't have somebody in my organization, I'll just find an EXP agent there, co-sponsor with them. And now they're getting everything that we provide, plus they've got a local boots on the ground presence too. So, I mean, it's really the best of both worlds. So it just allows us to keep doing what we've always wanted to do, which was changing lives and selling a few homes along the way. We want to help people. So
I love it, man. And we could have just said that the platform thing in the very beginning. EXP is nothing more than a platform where you can come and grow your business in as many ways as you can think of. It's not just selling homes, and we are surrounded by and continue to keep adding some of the largest producers, entrepreneurs in the country that are joining this brokerage on a weekly basis. And it's been fun to watch. I've been here 5 years in October, and watching this place grow, and then seeing, like you mentioned, a lot of people think EXP's, stop growing. You are a baller, sir, an entrepreneur and someone who is a high production guy in everything you do. And you just joined, like you just got here, and you're not the kind of guy that's going to come. You didn't take this move lightly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there's no stall here. This thing is going and moving, and it's going to continue to grow. Take a look at it. Call somebody, call Phil Duke if you want to know what it's like to be joined over here. Phil, how can anybody get in touch with you if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm all over YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find. You can just type in, Phil Duke Jr., EXP Realty. You can find me any way out there. I'll try to respond as good as I can. I got a Calendly link all over my YouTube channel. A lot of free content on my YouTube channel about recruiting agents if anybody is interested in that. And we do a call every Wednesday, specifically around helping our people build their downlines, helping them generate recruiting leads as well. So it's not hard. If you can go sell houses, if you can generate leads with buyers and sellers, you can do the same thing with agents. And if you do that with enough agents, next thing you know, you've got some freedom. So
everybody knows 5 agents right now that want to do something different and grow their business. Reach out to those 5 people. Come over here and talk to me and Phil. We'll get you set up. Well, Phil, look, man, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man. Thank you for spending some time with us. And we'll look to have you back here, probably end of the year, first of next year, and see what you guys are doing next. Okay.
All right. Look forward to it.
All right, but everybody, Mike Price signing off. Thanks, Mr. Phil Duke, for coming in today. Mike Price signing off, Top Producer Series. And we'll have another one here soon. Phil, I'll talk to you later. Thanks, man.